Executive Board of Domestic Terrorist Organization, Antifa. That's our primary concern right now.
All right, that's what President Trump did. What does the FBI say?
We share the same view. When you look at the data right now, you look at the domestic terrorist threat that we're facing. Right now, what I see from my position is that's the most immediate violent threat that we're facing on the domestic side.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist?
Yeah.
If it's a terrorist organization and you've identified it as number one.
We are building out the infrastructure right now.
So what does that mean? We're trying to get the information. You say Antifa is a terrorist organization. Tell us as a committee, how did you come to that? Where do they exist? How many members do they have in the United States as of right now?
Well, that's very fluid. It's ongoing for us to understand that. The same, no different than Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
No, I don't want you. I'll ask one question, sir. I just want you to tell us. If you said Antifa is the number one domestic terrorist organization operating in the United States, I just need to know where they are, how many people. I don't want a name. I don't want anything like that. Just how many people have you identified with the FBI that Antifa is made of?
Well, the investigations are active.
Sir, you wouldn't come to this committee and say something you can't prove. I know. I know you wouldn't do that. But you did.
I'm starting to think that all this talk about Antifa might not actually be on the level. And look, as if the operations director of the FBI's National Security Branch's answer here didn't already make it obvious enough, Trump's Justice Department is clearly looking for some straw man here so that A, they can distract away from right-wing groups like the Proud Boys that do exist, and B, so that they can continue to wallow in victimhood and pretend that they're under constant assault, both of which are top priorities of today's Republican Party. So as not to bury the lead here, while Trump administration officials play make-believe that Antifa is the biggest threat to national security facing this country, it's not even a real group. There is no leadership, no meetings, no dues, no structure, and as Glasheen clearly recognizes now, no headquarters. So it's not only not organized, it's not even close to anything resembling an organization. All it is an ideology. You may not like that ideology, and that's your prerogative, but it's just an ideology. One that stands for anti-fascist and, not for nothing, but when you're against the anti-fascists, it's pretty clear what that makes you. In fact, in this same hearing, Glasheen was asked about exactly the point that I made earlier, about the Proud Boys and whether that actual extremist group is still a priority for this administration, and his answer here is pretty telling.
Mr. Glasheen, are you familiar with the Proud Boys?
I'm familiar with the name, yeah, Proud Boys.
Okay. Does the FBI still designate the Proud Boys as an extremist organization? They did in 2018 in President Trump's first term.
We are in the process right now of changing our categories for domestic terrorists.
So they're no longer designated as an extremist organization. The FBI designated them an extremist organization in 2018. Has that changed?
I'm not aware that they did that.
It's all over the media, sir. It's widely reported. Can you get back to me on that?
Sure will.
All right, thank you.
So, to be clear, you've got an extremist group, the Proud Boys, which were instrumental in fomenting violence on January 6. Its leaders, former National Chairman Henry Enrique Tarrio, along with Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, and Zachary Rail, were found guilty of seditious conspiracy and conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. A fifth member, Dominic Pizzola, was also convicted on several charges, including obstruction of an official proceeding and assaulting federal officers. Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years in prison, the longest sentence among the group, while Nordine received 18 years, Biggs 17 years, Rail 15 years, and Pizzola 10 years. You know how many Antifa leaders have been arrested and convicted? None. Because again, Antifa is not a real group with any semblance of an organized structure. And so that notion that that is a bigger threat than an actual extremist group whose leaders have all been indicted and convicted is a joke, and a testament to the fact that this White House is more focused on perpetuating a narrative than actually upholding the law. And let's be clear, this persistent focus on Antifa is nothing new. Right before the No Kings protest just a couple of months ago, here was Pam Bondi suggesting that everybody who was planning on attending were members themselves of Antifa.
Well, sure, and that's one of the things about Antifa. You've heard President Trump say multiple times they are organized, they are a criminal organization, and they're very organized. You're seeing people out there with thousands of signs that all match, pre-bought, pre-put together. They're organized and someone is funding it. We're going to get to the funding of Antifa. We're going to get to the root of Antifa, and we are going to find and charge all of those people who are causing this chaos in Portland and all these other cities across our country. Talk to all the influencers who have been threatened and beat up and their lives threatened from Antifa members. It's going to stop under Donald Trump.
Quote, that's the thing about Antifa, they are organized. Again, Antifa is quite literally not organized because it's not actually a real group. Or how about this idea that Antifa must be organized because they're, quote, thousands of signs that all match, pre-bought, pre-put together. First of all, the creation of signs does not make you Antifa. This may come as a surprise to the Attorney General of the United States of America, but signs have been around for a very long time, even before the Grand Marshal of Antifa apparently willed them into existence. And second, signs that all match? Have you seen any photos from any of these protests? The whole point is that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of different signs, none of which match. Like, for example, you'll have one sign that says Trump is Putin's pocket pussy, another that says fascists can oligargle these nuts, and finally, the quite succinct Trump is a cunt. So if the uniformity of signs is a surefire sign of Antifa, I think the millions of Americans who showed up to the No Kings protests are probably safe from prosecution. And look, I could sit here and debunk everything that Pam Bondi and her hack attorneys and prosecutors at the DOJ say, but the reason for all of this is beyond clear. They are deflecting attention away from the very real instances of right-wing violence because they don't oppose them, they support them. They want to be able to wield that cudgel to achieve their political ends. Trump did it on January 6th and then duly pardoned everybody who committed violence in his name to the tune of 1,600 pardons. Republicans tried to carry out a kidnapping plot against the governor of Michigan. They broke into Nancy Pelosi's house and bludgeoned her husband with a hammer. Don Jr. then laughed about it on Twitter and likened it to a fun Halloween costume. And right now, Indiana Republicans are the targets of threats, intimidation, swatting, and more at the hands of MAGA Republicans who want them to vote for new maps gerrymandering the state fully for their party. I mean, hell, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, the darling of MAGA, lamented the use of violence at the hands of Donald Trump and his followers.
After President Trump called me a traitor, I got a pipe bomb threat on my house, and then I got several direct death threats on my son.
On your son?
On my son.
You say the president put your life in danger. You blame him. You say he fueled a hotbed of threats against me, and that you blame him for the threats against your son.
The subject line for the direct death threats on my son was his words, Marjorie Traitor Greene. Those are death threats directly fueled by President Trump. I told him, I told J.D. Vance, I told them all, sent those directly to them.
Response?
J.D. Vance replied back to me, we'll look into it. I got response back from President Trump that I will keep private, but it wasn't very nice.
Give us a hint of what the president said.
It was extremely unkind.
Of course he was unkind, because again, he doesn't regret the violence, he wants it. It is his tool to wield, and he intends to keep using it. And if that means that he'll send his goons in front of Congress to run cover for him so that he can do exactly that more and more and more, clearly he has no problem doing it. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.